Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Girl Talk. I'm Brandy.
And I'm Kathleen.
Kathleen, what are we going to talk about today?
We are diving right into a big topic today, and it's exciting for me because I feel like it's a topic that really sort of binded us. Is that the past tense of bound?
Yes.
It binded us together when we discovered that both of us were going through a lot of these issues with perimenopause and menopause, and yet it's really not talked about. Why do you think it's not talked about?
Kathleen, I think there's a couple of reasons why. Number one, if you think about it, let's just go back to when we were in school. We learned about puberty, we learned about a period, and then there was maybe a couple of sentences or so about menopause. So what we knew was that the puberty was the time where young girls, their bodies were preparing to start having a period. You knew that you were going to have a period for a while, and somewhere around maybe your 50s, 60s or so, you would go through menopause. You would stop having periods, and you growing up, you probably heard about hot flashes, and that's it, right? So I think some of it is just lack of knowledge, of knowing that there is a phase that impacts all of us as women, and it's natural, right? So, and then the other thing, I think some women are they're not very comfortable with getting older, and so it's almost like I don't want to talk about that period of my life because maybe there's a negative connotation with aging, knowing that, oh, well, you're in perimenopause. Menopause, for some women, the idea of not being able to have children anymore, it kind of takes away their identity, right? So again, I think some of it is just lack of knowledge. It definitely was something that my mom and my grandmother did not talk about with me. Both my mom and my grandmother, they had hysterectomies, so they didn't experience a lot of these things. So again, a lot of it is just lack of knowledge. I tell people all the time, I just learned about perimenopause a couple years ago. Had
Same.
no clue.
Exactly. I remember growing up, my mother had uh, many sisters, and we would be together. We would be together often, several times a year. Everyone would get together, and we would sit around talking about all the things. We're talking about husbands, we're talking about kids, we're talking about food, we're talking about other people's husbands, kids, and food, and we never really talked about menopause or things like that. In fact, I remember distinctly it was just called the change. I don't know if you
Yes.
remember
The
that. It
change
was
of
just
life.
called the
Yes.
change. You're
The
going to have
change.
your period, then and then all of a sudden you're going to go through something called the change, and you're not. And I remember being young thinking, "Sign me up now. I don't want it now." But I don't I'm not sure that that's not all they thought it was, because maybe the other things that happen to us biologically, mentally, emotionally, physiologically, they may have associated that with just being tired or getting old or anything. They may not have put those two things together.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I,
Yes.
I do
And
think, and I agree with what you were saying. I think there was some shame. People don't necessarily want to talk about hair loss or brain fog or all the things that now we know.
yes.
So I think it's
Yes.
important to talk about these things. And Brandy and I decided to really go hard in these next two episodes. So this week's and next week's episode, we'll be discussing perimenopause and menopause. This week, we're just going to discuss it from the neck up.
Okay.
All the things that it impacts from the neck. We're going to get a checkup from the neck up.
Okay. I like that.
And then next week we'll discuss all the things that happen to the body from the neck down. So, Brandy, if you could talk a little bit about what is the difference in perimenopause and menopause, and how do I know if I'm in one or the other? Because I know you've
Okay.
done research on this.
Yes, and good question. And so, in a lot of women, that's like, well, how do I know if I'm in perimenopause? So, the difference between perimenopause and menopause, you are in menopause when you have not had a period. Okay, and when we say period, that is, we're talking about the actual flow. Okay,
Hmm.
you have not had a period for 12 consecutive months. All right, so by month 13, you are considered menopause, full blown menopause. Okay. Perimenopause is the phase before that. Perimenopause, believe it or not, Kathleen, it can start as early as in your early 30s. Okay.
Mm.
I've met women that went through perimenopause. They started having the changes in their periods, the changes in their cycle shortened. And then maybe they were once going every 31 days, and then it shortened down to they're having a period every 25 days. I've known women that has happened for them around 28, 29, and
Wow.
somewhere before the age of 40, some of these women were in full blown menopause. So perimenopause, again, very common when we think about the changes in your period. Maybe it used to be very light, have a very light flow. Now all of a sudden it's very heavy, or vice versa. Maybe the length of your period, at one point it was only 3 or 4 days. Now you're looking at 7 days. Okay, and to think about it, perimenopause and menopause, they have some of the same symptoms when we're
Yes.
talking about the brain fog, right? The what and so women, a lot of women can find comfort in, like, oh wow, I thought it was something wrong with me that I could not remember this. I can't tell you how common it is for me to hear women say, Brandy, simple words escape me. Or I can be in the middle of a sentence and I'm forgetting what I'm saying. I walk into a kitchen and I'm like, what did I come here for? The brain fog. Yeah.
The fog is, it's very common. It also feels so serious when it happens that it can really throw us off. I remember the first few times it would happen to me, and something that the viewers and listeners and that you might not know about me is my mother and several of her sisters had dementia.
Okay.
So when that happens, you are almost immediately triggered when that
Yes.
happens, and you begin to experience those small brain fog type incidences. You forget where you parked. You forget why you went into the room. One of the things you mentioned, you're in the middle of a sentence and you can't find the word because, and sadly, what happens when you're triggered by something is that's going to release things in your brain that are going to cause more anxiety and more stress and can consequently bring on more brain fog. So it's really important to know that not only is this a common symptom, but I guarantee that your sisters or your friends or your girlfriends at church or wherever you hang out, they're experiencing that same thing. And that's why we need conversations like this that take away that shame, that stigma, that embarrassment, and that thinking of, oh my gosh, I'm the only one and I'm losing my mind.
Losing my mind. And Kathleen, I had the exact same experience, because again, my grandfather's mom, she had dementia, and I was so concerned, like, oh my goodness, is this an early sign of dementia? And the moment one of my girlfriends mentioned, I was telling her about some of the symptoms I was having. She said, Brandy, I bet you're in perimenopause. So I went on to the good old internet and did, like, peri who? And when I saw brain fog, it was I felt it was comforting. Okay. So somebody may ask, well, why? What causes brain fog? Well, it's the fluctuation in our hormones. Hormones, you guys, that's the culprit of it all. Okay.
All of it,
it
yes.
it's the culprit of it all. And so basically the fluctuation of the hormone levels particularly estrogen. It causes sleep disturbance. So if you find that you're not sleeping well, blame it on the hormones, particularly the estrogen. And so the beautiful thing, research shows that brain fog, it can be temporary, and it can be managed through lifestyle changes, you know, diet and exercise, right? So, and then even, trying to reduce stress. So it's not like, oh my goodness, I'm dealing with brain fog. I'm just, oh well, this is just what I have to deal with for the rest of my life. There are ways to help manage it.
There are. And one of the other things that I have found in my research is that trying to improve your sleep can help with brain fog. Certainly,
Yes.
when I first get up in the morning, before I've had some caffeine, or sometimes later in the evening before I go to bed, and my brain and my body are tired, that's when I start doing the things where I'm walking around at the end of the day. I've got a routine, and I'm trying. Why did I come in the kitchen? Even though it might be part of my daily routine, go in the kitchen, tidy up, make sure. If there's things in the sink, they need to go in the dishwasher, make sure all the food's put away from dinner, all the things. And then you walk in, and it can be very scary if you don't
Yeah.
know what it is. So I'm really glad
Yes.
that we're talking about this today. Some of the other issues that we can have during perimenopause, for sure, are those period changes that we talked about. We talked about them being heavier, lighter. They can also be really, really short and really, really light. And I remember talking to one of my sisters who is a certified nurse midwife, and I had not had my period for probably 9 or 10 months, and we were at a family gathering, and I was telling her, "Oh, I think I'm in menopause. I'm so excited." And she said, "I hate to tell you, but it has to be 12 months." Well, I sort of discounted it and didn't believe it. Don't you know, the very next month. And here's what happened. I went from having no period for 9 or 10 months, I can't remember which one, to all of a sudden it was so heavy that I ended up having issues and had to have a hysterectomy
Wow.
because it became so heavy. And I'll just share, because this is girl talk and we're
Yeah.
transparent. I would
Yeah.
sometimes stand up and just have a gush. And
Yes.
you can't even, I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one. When you have that embarrassment level and the
Yeah.
fear of going out, because you're like,
Yes.
oh my goodness, it's day 1 or 2. I
Yeah.
can't leave my house because
Yeah.
I'm going to be out somewhere and embarrass myself.
Yeah, and basically what that is, it's impacting the quality of life. And
Yes.
so, ladies, if you are in a situation where this is sounding kind of normal to you, highly recommend get with your medical provider, because again, that is impacting quality of life. Okay? So another thing that I wanted to talk about when we talk about brain fog, and I think we both kind of addressed it, like we had concerns, right? Like,
Yes.
oh my goodness. And so another common symptom of perimenopause and menopause is increased anxiety, right? You may have been that person at one point, you were, oh, chill. It didn't, you didn't get really alarmed about much or whatever. And now you're in a
Laid
place
back.
where you're like, what is going on? Guess what? Anxiety is also a symptom of it. And again, it has to do with the fluctuation of the estrogen. And so it's estrogen and progesterone. So it impacts brain function and mood. Okay. And what happens is when we have that fluctuation in those hormones, it leads to anxiety, stress, and guess what? Even panic attacks. So you may be someone that you're like, what in the world? I have had girlfriends that were like, I thought I was having a heart attack. I didn't know what was going on. I started sweating, my heart was beating, and it was just like, what happened? And then they realize, they go to the emergency room only to find out you're having a panic attack. And it could be from the brain fog, like what is going on, getting the anxiety cause you to go into a full-blown panic attack. So I love that we're talking about this and we can have some laughter, but it is serious. And
It is.
it's something that we want you to don't suffer in silence, you know, educate yourself about it. Talk to your
Yes.
girlfriends about it. Ask like, okay, have you guys experienced this? And I'm sure you're going to hear, yes, I have. What's working for you? What are you doing? See your medical professional as well.
Well, and here's the thing, I'm wondering as we're talking about this just sort of a light bulb came on. When you think about the number of women who in their 40s and 50s end up needing some sort of medication for anxiety, stress, panic attacks, when it could be that they instead need a medication to deal with the hormones. I wonder if one could fix the other. And I know that a lot of women are, there's pros and cons to hormone therapy. We both know that. I'm sure most of our listeners know that. What would you say to that listener who is on the fence about the medication and if they should go on it or if they should just address the anxiety? What are your thoughts on that?
So like I just said earlier, there's no reason to suffer. Okay. I know that again, like we said, some people are fearful because it's like, well, I heard this or I'm afraid of this. Do your research. You always want to start with maybe start with some natural remedies, okay?
Yes.
Find out what are some things that could even help with anxiety. Off the top of my head, ashwagandha. Now, with the natural supplements, remember, it's not like a prescription medication that you may see results within 24 to 48 hours. A lot of the natural remedies, it takes a while. It may take about 4 weeks or so before you see it with consistent use, okay? So get with talk with your girlfriends. Find out what are they using. It may even be that when you go and you talk to your medical professional, you can ask them, hey, what about this? I've heard, I know some girlfriends that use this, but take the time to educate yourself, okay? Because again, now let me say this too. This may be shocking to many of you. The average gynecologist is not a perimenopause or menopause expert. That was shocking to me because again, I'm thinking if they are a gynecologist that they are automatically an expert in
On
those
all the
topics.
things. On all
Yeah,
those
but they're
things.
not. So it may even be worth you doing an internet search to find an expert in perimenopause and menopause, and it can even be maybe a virtual clinic. Okay, so because what in essence it's like if we're putting a band-aid on the symptoms that come with anxiety versus what you really need is to balance out your hormones. Okay, so talk to if you have a doctor that you're seeing and you feel like they are dismissing you, I highly recommend get you another doctor. It's okay because you need to be able to go in and lay it all out on the table when it comes to your doctor, okay? Without feeling
Absolutely.
judged, again, without feeling dismissed. You want to feel seen and heard. So don't just try to push through. There are times in life that we have to push through. Don't allow this to be one of those things because let me tell you something. This could be a long journey ahead, okay? So start with some home remedies. See if it's working. If not, do yourself and those people around you, because if you're dealing with it, you can best believe the people close to you, they're getting the effects of it as well. All right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I was thinking about some of the other changes that we experience from the neck up, and I know one of them that I deal with and that a lot of my friends deal with are hair thinning
Yes,
and
yes.
dry skin in particular. And if you have waited until you're in your 40s to take care of your skin, it's going to really start to show up once you get in your 40s and 50s because that dryness begins to happen. And we know that dryness is what leads to wrinkles and and
Yes.
any other issues. I mean, dryness can cause just itching. I have a a person who's close to me, and she has the oddest symptoms with her and menopause. She has dryness on her ears. It's the oddest thing, and I said, I guarantee you, there's other people that have these dry, itchy patches on their
Yes.
body as a result of just being at this age. But it's just so odd when you hear all these different symptoms that people have.
Yes.
And I promise you that someone listening or somebody that you talk to has the same issue.
Speaking
But
of ears, did you know that a symptom of perimenopause and menopause is ringing in the ears?
I did not know that.
Right. So again, once again, the fluctuation is so what it is. The low estrogen levels, it plays a role in the auditory system. That was
Wow.
mind blowing to me because I would have the ringing in my ears, and I'm like, what's going on? And then I started hearing more and more women talking about the ringing in their ears. So yes, the low estrogen levels, it impacts the auditory system, and its decline may affect also hearing sensitivity and increase. Is it tinnitus? So
I tinnitus it might be. I'm
tinnitus.
not sure how to pronounce that.
Exactly. So tinnitus. Okay. So you may say, "Oh my goodness, I've been dealing with this ringing in my ears, and I thought I was dealing with hearing loss. I didn't know what was going on." Again, peri- thank perimenopause and menopause.
Wow, it's just a whole just
Yes.
a whole body experience
Yes, it
with
is.
perimenopause.
Yes.
Well, I know that a lot of my friends deal with hot flashes. There are times I deal with cold flashes. So both of those, and so I recently did some research. I think you put up a post in your Facebook group, the perimenopause menopause Facebook group, and I did some digging because I thought the cold flashes were just that I'm getting old. Recently, I've lost some weight, and I thought, you know what? Maybe it's just because I'm not as big backed as I as I was, you know.
Yes.
So I thought, well, maybe that's just that. And then I read this thing that you post and start
Yes.
doing a little bit of digging,
Uh-huh.
and that's what astounds me now is that I do believe that in those previous generations when women didn't talk about it, I do think that there was a lack of information. There was
Yes.
a lack of knowledge. Now, I don't think that's true anymore. I think the knowledge is out there, but now I think it's just a lack of communication and willingness to be vulnerable and transparent.
Yes.
And so I'm glad that that seems to be changing. You can find plenty of experts now online who legitimately specialize in perimenopause and menopause.
Yes. Yes.
So
And you
the
know,
information is out there.
it is. And so I'm going to say, if for those of you that are listening, if you're on Instagram, Genev, Gennev, that is one of the largest online perimenopause and menopause support groups. They can you provide you information. Some people are looking for providers for face-to-face, in-person providers. You can get information there. So I say follow that page on if you're on Instagram. I'm not sure if they're on Facebook, but Genev, Gennev, V as in Victor. You want to join them. Kathleen, I can't agree with you more. I think, like you said, the information is out there. Now we just have to get people comfortable. It's kind of like mental health, right? At one point, talking about mental health issues was so taboo. And then we started realizing how empowering it was when people could be transparent and be vulnerable. I say this all the time, transparency saves lives. So sometimes simple as getting together with your girlfriends, getting a cup of coffee, or maybe even a glass of wine. And girl, so how is perimenopause and menopause affecting your life? And I can guarantee you're going to sit there and be talking for a couple of hours.
Yes. Yes. As we begin to wind down today, let's talk about some of the things that you and I have tried, or that we have heard, or we know that others have tried, that are impactful in terms of helping with these things. I know I
Okay.
talked about the hair thinning. One very simple thing that I have tried. I had several friends who were using, and I'm just going to drop the name. They were using the Nutrafol.
Okay.
I do know that Nutrafol is very, very expensive. I want to say it's a little less than $100. I don't know if it's every month or every 2 to 3 months. However, when I looked up the active ingredient in Nutrafol, I realized it was biotin. So instead, I just went to Amazon and I bought myself a high dose of biotin, and I looked up, it doesn't hurt anything. It's great for hair, it's great for skin, it's great for nails. So I bought that and I started taking one pill daily, and I realized after about a month I was starting to have growth here, and like an inch or more of growth. So I've definitely noticed a difference in that, and I didn't have to turn to this subscription of this highly expensive medication or treatment. Instead, I just went and bought what the main active ingredient was. So there's a little tip for the hair loss issue.
Okay. Okay.
What sorts of things have you heard about or tried for any of these other issues we've chatted about today?
So I mentioned earlier about ashwagandha. You can go to your neighborhood grocery store and buy this. Again, ashwagandha is good for anxiety and stress. Okay, something else, and hopefully I'm going to say it correct, but black maca, MACA root. This
Oh,
has
black
it,
maca root. I'm
yeah,
familiar with
black.
that.
So it's good for increased energy, mood improvement, and enhanced cognitive function, because we're talking about brain fog, right? So taking stuff, again, we want to be consistent. That's the thing. Get your regimen going. Try it for about 4 to 6 weeks. Okay, so start there, especially if you're kind of hesitant to go ahead and start with hormone replacement therapy. Try those and see how it works.
That's good.
Right.
And I will give a quick tease for next week's episode. That's not the only thing that black maca root is good for. And we'll be talking about that next week in our next episode. Well, Brandy, as we finish up today, is there anything you needed to add that you feel like we didn't cover, or anything else?
No, you know what? I want to invite the ladies to join the Facebook group, follow the Facebook group. It's perimenopause girl talk. Okay, if you follow me or Kathleen, you can find the group. Okay, join the conversation. Even if you're like, okay, I'm not really comfortable posting. Just look at what other people are posting, and you may really walk away. The goal is that you're going to walk away saying, wow, I'm not crazy. I found my tribe. So, and have those conversations. Talk to your girlfriends, talk to your sisters, talk to your daughters and your nieces. All right?
We guarantee that there are other people going through exactly what you're
Yes.
going through. So
Yes.
if you know someone, or while you're watching this today, you're thinking of someone specific, please share this episode. Please share this episode. In addition, we want to be a communication forum for you ladies. So if you've got ideas, questions, comment, please drop them. You can drop them right below this podcast on YouTube, on Spotify, or in the Facebook group. And we would be remiss if we did not wish a happy Mother's Day to all of our mothers who are watching, whether you are a mother, or whether your mother is still alive, or maybe you're just a fur baby mom.
Yes, yes, yes.
We
yes.
all mother lots of different creatures and people, of course. So we just want to wish everyone a happy Mother's Day, and hope you have a great rest of your week. So we'll tell you goodbye.